Nicholas 59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. We come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for an hour. We've been doing this for something like 700 episodes. We started out originally to attempt to host a daytime show over on gun channels, and our goal, me and Bob, was to act as DJs and offer a platform where people could present 10 or 20-minute videos, and we would do 3 of those a day, and then do a little chat in between, talk about the videos, and give people a platform to post stuff on a daily show. And that would give us an excuse to talk about a new gun shop every day, and talk about guns and gun of the day kind of thing, talk about members over on gun channels and feature them each day. And it never really got the traction we were looking for, so it evolved over and over throughout the years. It's been years, I guess, now. And the one thing that we have kept true to is trying to do the show on a regular daily basis, every weeknight. Like the recording there from the movie Red Dawn, we try to do it at midnight or else at noon, and we'll continue to effort at that. But really our goal is to put some effort into new media, to an interactive type of chat, a conversation that the people who are watching live can be part of. The people that watch it after or listen to it after the fact can also be part of, and to encourage people and challenge people to use these platforms that we put these things out on. Right now we're putting it out on YouTube because we have to. There's no other options that are viable. That's changing, and we'll be the first to try the new platforms. We were one of the first to put the live stuff with guns on YouTube, and I'll be one of the first to jump off of this horrible platform that hates guns. It means they hate us. They hate what we consider to be important. So I do appreciate the people that join us on a regular basis to be part of this experiment, this effort in new media, and the people that communicate with us over on the Gun Channels platform. Many people, dozens and dozens of people, every single month devote some of their hard-earned money to keeping Gun Channels going. It's a community. It's 5 years old now. It's had its ups and downs, its ebbs and flows, and we're still kicking, and we're still talking about guns. We have lots of different creators doing all kinds of stuff, lots of people who enjoy that real conversation, and the ulterior motive to it all is to leave pipelines of communications open so that when necessary we can get information out there that's important. So we have people like Hosh, who's attempting to do things outside the internet using radios and other electronic ways of communication, which is awesome. We've got people like Clover, who just finished a nerd chat where we talk about the nuts and bolts, doing how we create content out there, and all different kinds of stuff. So that's a little introduction to the show. I haven't done that in a while, so I forget to that not everyone has been listening to the show for 700 episodes, but somebody who has been a long time and who's been putting in effort all over the place since, I can't even remember how long we've been around, or I've known Dano being around, but it was pre-gun channels, right? You were around on YouTube?
Yep.
So at least 5 or 6, 7 years that we've known each other. Anyway, Dano is the host of the show, and thanks for jumping in here in Illinois. I am back in Arizona, but I'm not home, so I'm somewhere else in Arizona, trying not to go home, but pointed that way. And I guess it's just us tonight. I've got quite a few links out there, and we'll see. They're having some interesting conversations. There's lots of stuff happening in the background with content creators all the time, and I'm sure a bunch of them are still in Clover's chat, but we'll see if other people jump in. I think we've got some interesting topics tonight. The shows have been kind of scrambled since I've been on the road, and I haven't been able to post as consistently as I want to. I've just been recycling the shows, so the numbering system is all screwed up, but this is Good idea, bad idea. So it's really a Wednesday show, but we're going to talk about the best movie starring the AK-47. I'm stealing that from a show Matt should do. And then good idea, bad idea, cleaning guns after every time you shoot it. Now, I'm pretty sure Dano and I have already talked about that, but not with whoever's watching tonight, probably.
And as anybody who's ever heard me in the past on movie night knows that that's my strongest category is movies.
Well, we'll do the cleaning part first then. Like I say, I'm pretty sure we've hit that before, but do you clean every time you go shooting?
For the most part, yes. And that's because I always bring my carry gun with me, and I have more than one carry gun, depending on where I'm going, how I'm going to dress, and I want to be sure that it's going to be as fully operational as it can be. And the thing I don't like about having a dirty gun is it's easy to go from using it once and then just skipping it. And of course, it's made to be used a lot. You don't certainly have to clean it every time. But I'm not good at tracking things. It's like, well, did I have 500 rounds since I've cleaned it? Has it been 1,000 rounds? Has it been 2,000? So it's just, I feel more comfortable knowing that it's a clean and well lubricated tool rather than having to track it every time. And for the guns that I don't necessarily use or don't plan on using for self-defense, I don't know how often I will bring them out again. So I like knowing that whatever's put away is cleaned, and whether I don't shoot it for a year or I don't shoot it for 6 months, it's fine where it is.
That's a good point. And that's something that I don't think everybody thinks about, especially if you've got a gun or two, because you're shooting your guns every time you go out. But as soon as you get to where you've got a third or fourth, that you don't bring out, you've got a gun or more that you're not bringing out every time. You go hunting or something, you put it up and you think, well, I'm going hunting next weekend. And then that falls through. And then before you know it, hunting season's over and you never touch that gun again for a year. That's happened. So that same thing can happen going to the range. Well, I'm going to shoot this thing next weekend. I'll just clean it then. And then something falls through and you don't shoot that gun again for 8 months.
Right. And, not all lubricants are created equal. And that's, as far as what I'll call shelf life inside your gun once it's applied, as far as having the same lubrication qualities, immediately after you lubricate your gun versus 6 months later, if it hasn't been touched, it may suddenly be a whole lot drier and having a whole lot more friction. And that may impede the operation of your firearm.
Now, I was raised by, I think, Cycle said it the other day, like we would wipe the guns down with oilcloths or whatever, clean them all the time, and then wipe them down with oilcloths and then put them back into the safe by the wood. Like we never touched the metal after the oil. And it's because I grew up where there's rust. And I think what's happened is, number one, not my dad's guns anymore, they're mine. So, my determination or my whatever, rules, I guess. And then I don't have rust, knock on wood. We just don't have it the same way as you people have it. So if I leave something dirty, it's dirty. It's not ruined.
Right. But I think for a firearm that you would potentially use for self-defense, that would still apply, though, I would think. As far as wanting to make sure that it's always in good working order, which means lubricated.
I mean, there's different ways to look at that. I mean, you're never gonna, you can. I guess it's possible. You're not gonna seize up a pump shotgun. I mean, you never clean a pump shotgun. Maybe the firing pin will get fouled. I mean, there's not much that's going to happen to a pump shotgun.
On a revolver, it's probably a whole lot less sensitive to that. I guess I'm thinking of semi-autos.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, but then that's the thing. Like I guess I was saying too is that, you don't know when you're not going to touch that gun again for 9 months, and that's when those fingerprints you left on it, just from using it, are going to turn into little rust circles everywhere.
Right. Yeah, you've now decorated your gun with permanent fingerprints.
But if you're thinking of these things as investments, that's not good. So there is something to that. Like if you're considering them commodities, some people have heirlooms and they're never going to sell, but then there's, commodity. You've got a shotgun, you use it this year and you're not shooting at it anymore, or you got a competition gun, you're not shooting at anymore. You move it and you buy something else that you're into. It's a little tougher when it's all rusty and gross.
Right.
Speaking of rusty and gross, Bob jumped in. Welcome. And we got Sandhills jumping in from the weird looking shape in Nebraska.
Yes. The home of ditchweed.
Did you say weird looking?
Yeah, I was wondering about that the other day. I can see the one side is a river, but what's going on over there with did Colorado take a big bite out of you?
Kinda. They kind of horn in where they're not wanted, but
I don't know the history of it. I've seen that show where the states got their shape, but I don't think they ever did Nebraska. At least I never saw it.
Well, they're sitting on top of Kansas, so.
Well, I got actually the state lines used to be quite a bit different. Like even up there where my star is, where I came from, the state line used to come down further south, right there where it's straight. Mm-hmm. It used to come down further to the Niobrara River, and that's all been, of course, changed when the official state line got established. But yeah, I don't know all of the story either behind how we got our shape, but we do have a very distinct. Well, every state except for Colorado and Wyoming have their own distinct shape.
Pretty much. I think Pennsylvania looks pretty rectangular, but I think it was mainly. I was thinking about it because I think it was at Dead Horses. We ended up talking about like the Mormons and how they had moved over. Got kicked out at various places, and when they took Salt Lake City, and then that was before there was a country out here. I don't even know if it was Louisiana Purchase yet. I think they just came out here and claimed territory. So whenever the government came along, the United States government said, "Hey, why don't you be a state now?" They had all kinds of issues, and we were talking about how originally it was going to be a big giant state of Oregon, I think, and it was going to be like giant. It was going to be like Washington, Oregon, chunk of California, Nevada, Utah, and then the Mormons were like, "Hell no, or probably not that." They probably said nope, and then kind of whittled out Utah shape. And I'm guessing the other people who lived in those other territories were like, whatever disputes they. Anyway, yeah.
Well, as well as, honestly, the people in the East didn't truly comprehend how big the West was.
There's no way, yeah.
And there's no way, you can manage a state of that size.
They I'm just thinking, comprehend it.
Yeah, how does someone like, okay, the 14th parallel or the 38th parallel, whatever those parallels were, like, come on. And how did they know?
Rhode Island, people from Delaware, Connecticut, these are tiny, tiny states.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got quite a few counties out here that are bigger than states back there.
There's a county in Nebraska that's roughly the size of Rhode Island. It's our biggest county, but yeah, it's about the size of Rhode Island.
I wouldn't be surprised if we have forests, like just one chunk of national forest named something with boundaries. Like I would imagine we've got forests that are bigger than some of the states back there.
Probably close to it,
And that's just a bunch of woods inside of another state, that are just happen to be boundaried by some. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. I think we were talking about putting guns away after each shoot. So, Bob, do you put your guns away or do you clean them up after each shooting?
No.
And you've got different situations than us with Canada is always got snow or rain or something, right? Or
yeah,
is it dry out there?
It's different every month, basically. But yeah, I don't know. They don't seem to rust. I generally, I've been known to just open the gun safe door and spray some, lubricant in there and close the door again.
I've done that. I've done that with tools for sure. Like open up a drawer in a toolbox and just spray a WD-40 in there, close the drawer.
Yeah. I mean, really, as long as you get a misting of oil on it, it generally stops the rust. So.
Sandhills?
Up until up until just recently, I haven't had a gun that was worth saving from some rust, I guess. I mean, I've got, you know, an old Savage Pump 22 that was my dad's when he was a kid, and a beat to heck Remington 788 that the rust would actually improve its look. Probably it's that beat up. So up until I got my Browning, I'd never really had much need to worry about it. I don't have a safe, so right now I just kind of have stuff locked up in cases. But I haven't fired my Browning just because I haven't got it scoped yet. So it's still wearing its grease from the box. I haven't even cleaned it up yet. I'm just letting it wear that for now. My carry gun, I try to clean that after I shoot it, and just, you know, once a month get all the lint wiped out. But I think that if I like my gun, I want to clean it up, you know, and especially if it's a carry gun, keep the lint and the goo and stuff, you know, cleaned out of it. But at the same time, I don't want to own a gun that won't work dirty either. So it's kind of a two-edged sword in my mind.
Right, and that's why I like Glocks. They work super dirty, they work clean, and I know people that don't clean them for competition and stuff like that. They just don't bother, and they work flawlessly. They work all the time, and I don't necessarily go with that for carry, but for another reason that you mentioned there. As you're cleaning, you're also able to inspect. So if something's peening or cracking or balding or whatever, you know, something not wearing right, you can be aware of it. If you just allow the thing to keep working and you never monitor it, then you're not monitoring it, right?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Everything is going to break at some point, but if you take the thing apart every now and then and look in there, you're going to kind of have an idea of how far away you are from that point. And especially for a carry gun, who wants to trust their life with something that may or may not work?
Yeah, or like, you know, you're going to need it, and it's going to be needed probably like really fast, really well, like, you know, really in weird conditions. It's raining, there's mud on it, it's just got to work.
If I'm hunting and I, you know, pull the trigger and my rifle doesn't go off, you know, my life is not in danger, and I'm still going to eat whether, you know, I get a bird or a deer or something. So it's not life or death, but your personal defense weapon, that you kind of got to make sure that that's going to go bang every time you pull the trigger.
Well, I'm not going to get into it because I want to change subjects, and we're really here just to chat up for a bit, not trying to school anybody or we're definitely not selling nothing. But at the same time, the freedom of not selling stuff means we can rag on stuff. So I got no problem with Rem oil. I buy Rem oil in the spray paint size can, and I have it around. I use it for things. But it is like a WD-40. It's a penetrating water displacement type of thing. So let's put it in terms that everyone can understand. Olive oil is different than fryer oil, and that's different than the oil you'd use on like a salad dressing, or I don't know, a sewing machine, right? There's different oils have different characteristics for different uses, and it was just oil. They would only make oil, right? They make all these different things because they have, you know, various, like say, characteristics, applications, uses. And I've seen people, because I live in the desert and we don't get rust, but people will put a water-based lube on stuff and get rust. Like, well, you introduced water to it. Like it says, and if you read the fine print on that label, clean all you want with it and then wipe it down with oil because it's got a bunch of water in the cleaner, you know. So there's people that will use stuff, in my opinion, improperly, or at least there's a better option for them, and it doesn't always bite you. But like I say, I've learned my lesson from putting stuff away what I thought was oiled, and I got it out not protected.
Yeah, that's what I like. Like I generally use a G96, which is just kind of does everything, right? So
except there's nothing that truly does everything well.
Well, maybe not. I mean, like I say, but it's you know, I've got some old 22s and stuff that have absolutely no bluing left on them at all, and I can stick them in the safe for a year. And as long as I got a light film on them, they don't get any rust on them. They're just fine.
Well, okay, so let's talk about a gun made back in the day versus a gun made today. I bet you a gun made back in the day, steel is steel, and they made steel, and it was made out of steel, and it's a steel gun. I suspect today, though, they figured out a long time ago just how much of this they need and how much of this filler they can put in there, and maybe how much of this will still be strong, so that now this steel, since they got to buy so much of it, is a couple of pennies cheaper if they mix it this way. So now maybe there's different characteristics to the steel is what I'm getting at. Different tendencies of it to get rusty and stuff. Is that a thing? Because, saying quality of materials changes over the years?
It's absolutely a thing.
Yeah, that's a point. And we probably don't even think about that much, that guns that were made back in the 50s and stuff were a different steel than what they're making them out of today. I mean, it just makes sense.
I mean, there's aluminums now, and yeah, like the Zamek and stuff like that. Like when I tried to weather my little lever action 22, it was horrible because I thought it was metal. There was almost no metal on it at all. The barrel was metal. That was it. Everything else was some hybrid metal-ish type of thing.
Talking about metals, I mean, it's a category that maybe people might be a little bit more familiar if they look at cars from the 50s and what they were looking for and what was the cheapest and how many different types of materials cars are made of today versus the ones from the 1950s, where the hood was the same as the bumper, which was the same as the door.
Yeah.
And the thick
versus today, you've got plastics, you've got aluminum, you've got all sorts of hybrid materials.
I seen a Dodge, and I didn't make it up. It was a Dodge. I can't help it. And it was a pickup truck, and it had dealer plates on it, which is one of the reasons I was looking at it. And its bumper, I don't know, I couldn't figure out how they did this, but imagine the back bumper of a pickup truck. You go from the driver's side on the left, you go across to where the license plate is in the middle, and then you bend it like a bendy straw, and it came up and out from the vehicle like some kind of weird old fin on an old Chevrolet or whatever. So it was like I don't know, yeah, but it looks like a crane picked it up by the bumper. Anyway, the bumper was in this weird twist, and the bumper was made out of fiberglass. It was like broken fiberglass. And I don't know if that's somebody who like deliberately bought a lightweight bumper, or are they making bumpers out of fiberglass?
Well, like on my Honda, the outside shell is plastic and on the inside is styrofoam. I mean, it's crazy the different materials they have, and again, versus the 1950s solid steel bumper.
Well, that's energy absorption, right? That's one of the reasons they're safer,
right?
Because it crushes and stuff. The unfortunate part is they can get damaged, and you can't tell because the plastic pops back out, and
yeah, like it pumps back into shape, and you don't even know you got nailed in the parking lot that afternoon.
And meanwhile, that foam that was supposed to absorb impact is now crushed. So next time you get hit, it's going to be more serious.
Right. Because the foam that they used in bumpers does not have a quality which is called memory, which means it doesn't pop back to its size. It will, if you compress it, it will stay to whatever that size was.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So they need to be replaced.
Yes.
How much flex will those bumpers take, though, and still pop back? I mean, because I'm just thinking back, the first time I ever realized that there were plastic bumpers filled with styrofoam was back in the late 90s, and I saw a Pontiac Firebird, a new model at the time, late 90s model Firebird that had been in a wreck, or it looked like, and the front half of the bumper was cracked and busted off, and you could see the styrofoam filler in the half that was still there. And I'm just thinking, well, that plastic, yeah, it's going to flex and maybe pop back into place, but it's going to crack. It's going to show damage, I would think. If it's a hit hard enough to compress that foam, I would think that there's going to be a scuff on the paint. I think you'd know it. Again, unless you're not paying any attention at all to your vehicle, in which case, then a lot of people
I think the paint's going to show scuffing or something. I think you're right on that.
No, I've seen it. It depends on what it gets hit by, but I've seen them pop back out, and
But I only raised that topic as a point of the cars are now using different materials,
right.
And guns now are using different steels, including the gun is not entirely steel. Period.
Yeah. And that's the new thing, right? The plastic guns, and hey, I own one. It works. It's nice and light. It doesn't feel anything like like say something like my high power, but
Well, even a lot of a lot of hunting rifles and things you see nowadays, the budget ones, they might still have a walnut stock, but the trigger guard is plastic. The floor plate might be plastic or something. That bottom metal, or what would be bottom metal, isn't always metal anymore. And of course, magazines are almost always plastic of some sort now. Even my Browning X Bolt has got a very tough looking plastic magazine instead of a steel one.
Even for some of the older guns, you go to buy a new magazine. Well, it's the magazine for the gun, but it's partially plastic, whereas the old ones were all steel. So
how do we bring this back to cleaning and guns?
Yeah, we talked about everybody's preferences, and like I say, we're really here just to prime the pump. Hopefully, people take some of these discussions and have them at the gun shop or the gun show this weekend, or out at the range, or in real life with your friends when you're BSing, or if you do your own shows or joint shows. Something they're out there when the topics die down.
I've got a question though. We've established that rim oil is different than other lubricants, or oils aren't the same. So what does everybody like to use for a cleaning solvent or oil of some sort? And then what does everybody like to use as their final coat that they apply when you do oil a gun?
Bob, why don't you go ahead and start?
Well, I'm probably the worst one to ask, but I'll use whatever I've got. I mean, like I say, that G96 works for cleaning as well as for lubing and stuff like that, which I kind of like because it's simpler that way. So yeah, it's basically whatever I've got handy, and I will use WD-40. I'll use, I've used motor oil. I didn't have anything else handy at the time, and I had a quart of motor oil sitting there, so I just used some of it. I'm not particular.
All right. Sandhills, what about you?
Typically, what I use right now is just CLP. Like I said, I haven't taken the grease off of my nice rifle. My shield and my Glock, I don't worry as much about babying those. I mean, again, I didn't buy them to be babied. So I use CLP on them, and I'll use little hoppies after I fired them, especially around the bore and breech face. But then I'll give everything just to, put a little CLP on a patch and wipe everything back down is usually what I end up doing at the end.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and go next. I'll start off with depending on how dirty it is, CLP in general, and then if I need to break out the brass brush, if there's certain areas where I've got to either gunpowder or carbon buildup or whatever have you to get that off, and then once I'm satisfied with the inside of the barrel as well as the outside and where in other various areas, is then I'll always lubricate it with a higher end oil. I'm not brand tied to any certain brand, but I do want a higher end oil. As far as cleaner, I can put in a little elbow grease to get that that crust off, so to speak. I don't necessarily have to have the latest cleaner, but I do want either a synthetic or a high-end lubricant when I'm completely done. But again, I'm and I was talking, I don't know if you were in here or not, Sandhills, before, but I'm coming from a point of view of this could be my, if this is my concealed carry gun as an example, I have a much higher standard for how clean is clean enough, and how well inspected is it, that I'm going to be carrying this and possibly defending my life with it, versus a gun that I'm just taking to the range and shooting for fun or accuracy or whatever, but I'm not necessarily anticipating defending my life with it. So that's a slightly different level. It's so they still get cleaned. It just, I'm not as it's not as critical to me as something that I carry. So, D-Webs,
So I prefer Slip. If I had to buy something, I would probably buy Slip 2000. I like that. I like the stuff, and I like the company, and that's a big chunk of it, because the way Dano said something there in his description, basically the oil of the day or whatever. Oil is, well, like Bob said, oil is oil. It will all work. There's just characteristics of it that are better or worse or whatever. So motor oil, I don't like that, but it obviously works. It just, if you get motor oil in your eye, I don't want motor oil in my eye, or the detergent that's in motor oil in my eye. It's not made to be in your eye, where some of the other stuff is basically food grade. So you get in your eye and it doesn't matter, because it's designed to be flooding in your eye and not hurt you. So just little things like that, it's a characteristic that if you can, purchase something with that intent, then go for it, or might as well. But I'm like Bob in the fact that I don't try to worry too much, because there's free lube everywhere. Everybody's trying to sell it to you. I guess what I was saying there is that there's lots of people that jumped into the, hey, I can market stuff, and gun lube is a thing, so I can market gun lube. And it seemed like every couple of weeks there was a new flavor, a new brand, a new secret formula. And I don't know what the trademarking is, but once people started digging into it, a lot of it was just food grade oil that they would mix a little bit, some ratio of mineral oil into or something.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier about older guns, and they used to use 2-in-1 oil and stuff like that on older guns, primarily revolvers, but I mean, back in the days of the late 1800s and so forth, because they didn't have, 10,000 oils to pick from.
Well, that's the thing. Oil is developed too.
Hard.
But just because there's two different types of food grade oil doesn't mean one of them's any better than the other one. It doesn't mean one of them isn't better than the other. But anyway, all I'm getting at is there's lots of marketing. So because there's lots of marketing, there's lots of free samples. So just keep your eyes open. You can go to the range and get free samples. You get free samples at gun shops. Trade shows are perfect because they want you to try their stuff. So they're going to have free samples. Pay attention when things are closing down at a gun show. When somebody's packing up their table, they might have a thing of free samples that they got somewhere. And oil doesn't go bad, so who cares if it's 2-year-old free samples, right? No one even knows. There's no dates on them. So I've got a toolbox of wet, and I've got a toolbox of tools for my gun cleaning. Like that toolbox that's all the wet stuff, I've done videos on it. It's like 2 bottles of hops, and I got my Hoppies 9 at like, buying 3/4 of a bottle. It's already gross for like $1 somewhere. So I don't even buy new bottles of anything except for maybe Slip. If I probably have bought a new bottle of Slip if I was out somewhere and I needed it. But I'll buy a half a bottle of something, or an open bottle of something that's spilled out for less money. And then it does 2 things. 1, it's way cheaper. 2, you get experience with all these different oils and solvents. And when I was actually shooting a lot and doing stuff, I'd know that like, well, this one works a little better, to get rid of lead fouling. And this one seems to work a little bit better if I'm just wiping the wood down, or something like that. Or this one is bad, so I'm going to use it to clean a tool afterwards or something. Like, I'm not even going to put this on my guns. So when you got those free samples, you really get a chance to, it's like a buffet. You get a chance to sample each of them, literally.
Speaking of the samples, just for a moment, is something that I've noticed, and of course I haven't done a study or anything. It's just it seems that a lot of them, they only give you enough to like maybe do a pistol. You wouldn't necessarily have enough to do a rifle. So you're going to want to grab more than one if they're available.
That's a good point, and that's like an actual literal sample. But I'm saying if somebody wants you to try their product, and you're at like an event of some sort, and there's not a billion people there, you might get the smallest bottle they sell as a sample, or even a bigger bottle, like their medium-sized bottle, as a sample. So most of my samples are little tiny things like you're talking about, but not all of them.
Yeah, I've still got SHOT Show.
And if the gun show is slow or something, or you're at an event and the booth is not very fast, you can always ask, can I have a few of these? And they'll either say yes or no, and then you've got plenty and no problem.
They always say yes, because it's just something they don't have to lug home, and they bought it to get it out there. And if you're getting 3, chances are you're giving one to your brother-in-law or something. But also, you just go to events and do stuff. Like you go to a Glock event, and you might walk out of there with somebody trying to sell you on their lube, and they gave you a full-size bottle and another bottle of their cleaner and a little rag in a little bag, because they know that you're a shooter, and that if you have their stuff in your hand, chances are you're either going to love it or hate it. And if you love it, you're going to tell people, and it's worth it to them to throw out a bunch of free bottles. Because when we get down to it, it's all oil. It's all petroleum byproducts. So somebody's buying this stuff by the giant truckload. Somebody else is selling it by the 55-gallon drum. And that guy's wheeling it into a room and sticking it in the little tiny bottles and selling it to us for massive markups. So there's a ton of money in oils.
Yeah, because they don't want to sell us one button or one bottle and then not see us for 10 years. You know, they want you to come in and keep buying. I think that's another reason why it's priced the way it is, as well as why they tend to be small bottles.
Well, we definitely got into oil. So why don't we get into movies with AKs in them? So best AK movie starring the AK-47. We'll go with Dano first, and maybe we'll go 3 rounds around and then see what people are saying in the comments out there.
In my mind, the most iconic movie, which unfortunately I can't remember the title of at the moment, is the one that it's your favorite movie.
Red Dawn.
Yes, Red Dawn. That's it. Thank you. Simply because, I mean, there's I very distinctly remember like movie posters of I forget the name of the character, but I forget if it was Hulk standing up on the rock holding the AK above his head, the rifle that he had, as well as in other scenes throughout the entire movie, as well as in the hands of the bad guy.
There was something like 13, the guy John Milius, the guy who made Conan and Dirty Harry and Apocalypse Now. Well, he was involved in all those movies, either wrote them or directed them, or completely his movies. That guy, when he was putting together Red Dawn, he wanted it to be a significant movie, and he wanted it to not be distracting by using a bunch of, hobbled together movie versions of guns. So they bought authentic Egyptian semi-auto AKs, like 13 or something of them, 18, I forget. And this was 1984, 2 years before the stupid Hughes Amendment to the Gun Owners Protection Act. So he bought those guns. They took them over to the place, turned them, most of them into full autos. Some of them were full auto blank firing, and a couple of them they left semi-auto. Then they gave them a cosmetic look to look like they were actually used by a bunch of Cubans and commies. And then luckily he made that, because at that point in time, he was able to, and it was justified for the movie. And those AKs have been around in the A-Team and all kinds of TV shows and movies since.
I thought
just a quick detour, but on the Cuban AKs, what aspects of those were different than, let's say, a Russian one?
Well, in real life, Cuban AKs come from China and Russians come from Russia.
Okay.
The RPKs, the long AKs, they couldn't get those from Egypt, so those were the Valmets found. Just 2.
Oh, okay.
And that's what we shot up at. Did you go with me to Copper Star?
No, I missed it.
Oh. But anyway, that's what they've got. Right, actually, I should go there right now. But actually, they're real close to Copper Star, and that's where one of those guns is. Anyway, so yeah, definitely an iconic movie, and significant to the AK as far as us is viewers of movies, because if Milius wouldn't have been as insistent on making those 13 or 18 AKs into full auto and look like real Russian guns, again, we'd be looking at some goofy looking M1 carbine with a mag sticking out of it that was supposed to be an an AK probably for most of the 80s, because that was all done, while we were still in Cold War tension and stuff. So that was awesome. So that's another reason I like that movie so much, is that I like AKs. And what's also neat about those 13 or 18 AKs was that the company that had them, the production company that used them and made them in the movie, or used them in the movie and used them in other things, eventually went out of business and sold them all as inventory to Big Black Mountain or whatever it's called in Vegas. And they documented every single thing about every one of those guns. So those guns are out there and people own them. They're transferable 386 full auto. So yeah, I think, well, probably that would be my number one AK movie, but there are others.
Yeah.
So we're going to go around. So Dano just jumped out. But Bob, AK movie.
I'd go Heartbreak Ridge.
Okay. Clint Eastwood, the Marines. Stupid movie, but
yeah, but it really featured the AK, right?
Where the whole, like, they're marching down the sand through some trees, and then he's gone, and then they're just marching, and then he comes out from behind them and shoots into the ground, and that's the distinctive sound of the weapon of your enemy, or something like that.
Yep.
No, that's a good one. Santos?
I'm gonna say First Blood Part 2, because there's a lot of AKs being shot at Rambo in that movie.
Right on. Well, I gotta agree with you, and I got another piece of trivia. There's in Rambo First Blood Part 2 and in Rambo 3, and I think in some other movies, but anyway, in Rambo First Blood Part 2, there is a part where some basically friend, no, it's in Rambo 3. I forget where it is in Rambo 2. But anyway, in both movies, in Rambo 2, I think it's just a bad guy. Some bad guy runs out of a building with it. And then in Rambo 3, the same piece of kit is on, like, his Afghanistan friend. So there's a couple of scenes where he's about to jump into a hole in the ground in Rambo 3, and you can really clearly see his little friend wearing this like a chest rig sort of thing, like a Chinese chest rig for 3 AK mags. And anyway, I bought that off of eBay a long time ago. So I have it's a fake, but it's a AK magazine chest rig that was in Rambo 2 and 3 and some other movies.
Cool. Yeah,
I think Bob had it on in the pictures when we went to the Red Dawn Rocks. Bob put it on.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bob took a picture at the rocks where they're squirting grapefruits on each other, right before they get killed in Red Dawn. Bob is standing in front of that rock wearing a chest rig that was in Rambo 2.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that movie. I mean, that picture.
The picture of Bob standing in front of that thing?
Right.
With Harley?
I think it went out on Instagram.
I remember you guys talking about it.
Holding a VZ58 in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got like a billion pictures. That was super fun. We went out there. We went to Tina's, which is in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And you got to ask her where the directions. She'll show you how to get out there. So we go out there, and you sort of come down a hill to where this rock is. And we get to the top of this hill. We know that it's coming. And there's a cop sitting there, like a roadblock. And I think from what I remember, there was a sign or something that said, like, bridge coming up can only hold 4 tons or something. I'm like, well, I'm not a problem. I'm in the cop car. But Bob's got this giant truck with this giant trailer behind it, like 8,000 pounds of trailer. Or is it more than that? Anyway, he let me go. He let Bob go. And then we go down the hill. We see the rock, and I pull over, and I don't even pay attention because I'm looking at the rock. That the place we pull over to is packed. Like, there's nothing but cop cars and like vans and trailers and all this stuff in there. And it's not one bit of recreation. This is like a busy productions thing happening. So we figure out that we just got invited into the parking lot of like some commercial they're filming, and they're like, there's this big basin from like where we came down into this like basin, and then all the way up like mile or something to the other side, like a big skateboard ramp, except it's like a mile long and it's a road, right? And they're just, what were they chasing, like a Corvette or a Mustang or something?
Yeah. It was pickup truck.
So they're chasing some car with a cop car, like over and over again from one side to the other. And they got this drone that looks like a fucking helicopter. It's huge. Like it, you know, it takes a whole truck to support it. And there's probably like 5 people flying the thing. So there's like this whole thing going on, and we just get out and walk across the street with the dogs and hang out at this Red Dawn rock, taking pictures with AKs. Like as soon as the truck would go by, we'd start taking pictures.
Yeah,
and then
with
like hide
AKs, chest rigs,
go by filming, and then we'd jump out from the weeds and start taking pictures again.
That's pretty crazy.
It was pretty.
Oh, yeah, and
Now,
cops
is
kind
that
of
public
looking
land
at
right in that area, or is that private? I'm
Wait,
assuming
what's
it
the
would be
question?
assigned if it was public lands, but
Well, this is all just national forest or something. This is nothing.
oh,
to
okay.
like this, everybody's. They're just filming there. They just had the cops because they're super dangerous. They're flying down the road with a cop car chasing them, you know, filming some commercial. I guess they're filming a commercial for like getaway drivers, like buy our truck. It's the best truck for getting away from cops or something.
Yeah, it was kind of odd. And the cops, you could see them kind of looking at us, wondering who are these 2 yahoos with the AKs and the chest rigs and all that shit.
And you know, there's some
And $2.
commercial out there with like Chevy trucks or something, and they're like, like there's a moment where you see 2 dudes standing in the
Yeah.
weeds with a bunch of AKs and
Like-
dogs.
Built like a rock. What are those 2 guys doing in the background?
Which your cop car that you were in, was that a Ford?
Yeah.
It'd be kind of funny if somebody rolls in a Ford with a bunch of guns to interrupt the Chevy commercial.
Oh yeah, I don't know. No, well, I'm pretty sure after the fact they thought I was a cop because I look like a cop in my cop car, and then they figured Bob was probably like, you know, some actor or somebody's camper for like, you know, recreating or whatever, taking a break. Because we looked like we were part of the crew, I imagine, and that cop didn't have some list of everybody who could be in there, so they just let us in. And then after some point, they were like yelling about having to refuel the helicopter or something, and we're like, "Can we leave?" And they're like, "Yeah, get out of here quick." So we like, you know, hauled ass out of there, like while they were refueling the helicopter or something.
Oh, you had to drive across the what was, I'm going to call it, the set to get.
We drove
where you wanted to
into
be?
the set because we didn't even know we were being let into a set. I just saw the rocks and pulled in, and then before we knew it, we were part of the crew. And I'm like, "Fuck this! I'm walking across and taking these pictures anyway." And then we figured out that they're driving back and forth with the cop car and the helicopter and all. Because at first we just thought they were making a movie or something down there. We didn't know. But after about the 5th time this car went by with the cop chasing it with a helicopter chasing the 2 of them, we figured out they were filming a commercial or something. I mean, you can imagine where they filmed Red Dawn. Like, it's spectacular there. So that's why they filmed Red Dawn there. It's amazing looking, and you know, perfect spot for a commercial. I guess doesn't cost nothing. You just go out to some road and drive on it all afternoon.
Remember what? Every half hour, the cops would let all the traffic go through.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. And then we were like, "Hey, let us out. We're like not part of your group." And they're like, "Yeah, get out of here." Yeah.
But yeah, all these cars would go through, and they'd see all this stuff going on, and then they'd look on the other side of the road and see these 2 guys with AKs and chest rigs and.
But they'd look at that side and go, "Oh, that's the Red Dawn rock," and then they would understand, and then they'd be jealous. Anyhow, so that was I don't know how we got into that.
A show from there, didn't we?
No, because didn't know we had internet. As soon as we dropped down into that hole, there was no internet.
Yeah, that was the theory, is we were going to.
Yeah, we could have almost. If we had like a helium balloon in my internet thing now, we could. As long as we could get it up to like 1,000 feet, we could do it.
So who's next?
I'm gonna go with the movie The Park Is Mine. Has anybody seen that one?
It sounds very familiar, but I can't picture it.
Oh, Tommy Lee Jones, right?
Yeah, it was a made for HBO. It took me forever to find it, but back in the olden days of cable, it was on like for a month. So I've seen it like a billion times back in the day. And it's some guy from Nam He's old, and he comes back from Nam, and it's sort of like Rambo. He goes and meets up with his other friend from Nam, who's now dead, and the guy who died was like, "Here, I want you to do something for me. Like, I set up all of Central Park with like both real landmines and claymores and stuff, and fake ones, and then I got like this bunker in the middle of Central Park, and I stocked it with like AKs and guns and stuff. So there's mags that are real ammo and then mags that are dummy ammo. And I want you to go out there and I forget what the point was, like do it for the vets or something, or do it for the POWs. There was some like altruistic reason that he was going to take over Central Park. And he basically runs around for the first half of the movie, like just making noises and shooting off blanks and freaking everybody out. And then when the police try to get rid of him, he flips it over to guns or real ammo. And weird movie, but it was again one of the first movies where there was just nothing but AKs in it, close-ups, and
Yeah.
cool movie.
Now, was he supposed to be a Vietnam vet?
He wanted to show the plight of the homeless or something.
Was he playing the role of a Vietnam vet?
Yeah. He was supposed to be a vet who lived and his, friend died, and it was supposed to like be a plight of the vets, I think.
Yeah, because there were a number of movies that portrayed Vietnam vets in a negative light after the war actually ended, and after we withdrew from Saigon, and that's one of them.
It definitely wasn't a great movie. I'm not saying
it played to that alternate version of guys coming home from war are definitely all screwed up,
and it's their fault, and like they should somehow be able to keep that in check. Yeah. But anyway, there was a lot of AKs, and it was early on. Go around again, Bob.
Boy, oh boy. Well, I'm gonna have to go with the A-Team.
The A-Team?
Yeah.
So you're gonna go with a TV show, but honestly, I mean,
it was a movie.
They made it a movie.
Yeah, I was going with the movie.
It was watchable.
The movie?
Yeah.
Where they steer a tank by shooting it downwards as they're falling out of an airplane? Oh, no, that's G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Well, that was
I don't remember. I have to go watch it again then. I don't remember the movie enough to remember if there's AKs in it. All right,
well, part of it takes place somewhere in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the show a couple of times, but it was so bad I never even knew there was a movie, and if there was, I probably wouldn't have seen it, only because I would have thought of the TV show.
Well, I like the TV show, but the movie was not the TV show. But all right, so Dano,
we already said what was my movie.
Yeah, we're going around again.
Oh, you want another movie?
3 times. Yeah, you need 3.
Oh man, I'll come back to me later.
All right. So then Santos.
I'm gonna say Commando.
Commando. Is there even an AK in that one? You mean the bad guys in the village?
I always have them at one point. Schwarzenegger picks one up.
They always play like the B role in that movie.
Well, there are a lot of different firearms in that movie. But
well, I'm thinking about infantry rifles. I mean, you have the M16, and then you have the AK.
Yeah.
In that particular movie.
Well, if we want to talk about just somebody picking one up, GoldenEye, I think. That whenever Remington Steele is James Bond, and he's like in the beginning of one of them, and it's whatever one his friend who's also a 008 or 6 or something he thinks dies, but then he turns out to be the bad guy. I don't remember. I think it's GoldenEye. Anyway, in the beginning of that movie, you know how there's like always a beginning of a James Bond movie, and then they play the beginning credits or whatever. Like in that beginning part, he's got a little crank. He kills the shit out of people with a crank. It's pretty cool. All right, so can we do a third?
Sure.
Uh,
7 days in Entebbe.
oh, I haven't seen
Israelis went into Idi Amin's country to rescue the hijacked passengers of the plane. So
I haven't seen that.
Hanze and it all.
The Mossad?
Yeah, it was the Mossad when Israeli special forces. I don't know if they were in Mossad because Mossad's more their spy guys. But it was their counterterrorism guys
Oh,
went
it
in
was
there.
uniform dude. So IDF or whatever they're called.
Yeah. And they went in against, Idi Amin. So that's, what the hell is that country? In Africa. I can't remember the name of the damn country.
Kuwait?
No. Idi Amin, the guy who was eating his people.
Idi Amin?
I remember the name, but that was before I was paying attention to politics, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, it was where the Israelis went in and rescued. So it was an African country supplied by the Russians. So all the bad guys,
That was Uganda.
Uganda. There you go. Thank you. Uganda.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember the movie, but I remember the event.
It's fairly recent. It's not that old a movie.
It's a really good movie.
Isn't it like this last year only?
No, this was
long. It was a while ago.
90s, I think.
At least
the movie. I mean, the movie was made back then.
Yeah, the movie was made in the 90s, I think.
Oh, I'm thinking of a different movie.
Yeah.
All right, Dano.
My basket is empty, and that's not the name of the movie.
And then Sandhills.
All right, hold on. Let me do this real quick here. I've been saving this one for the last.
So Dano's can be From Paris with Love. The movie is freaking awesome, and he uses a Romanian Draco, full auto Draco.
Okay. From Paris with Love.
In addition to jabbing a dude with his own Beretta slide, which is why you should never carry a Beretta.
I should watch that movie. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Dude, From Paris with Love, John Travolta being a badass operator with some other guy. It's awesome. It's a really, really good movie.
Oh, I think maybe I did watch that. Was the other guy, the young kid, his girlfriend or something was like a double agent, right?
Yeah, and
I don't remember much.
They shoot like a bunch of holes in a roof of some place, and cocaine pours out of the ceiling or something, and then they hold like a vase under it, and they're like walking around with a vase full of cocaine for like a portion of the movie, and it's just a crazy, crazy movie. I really like it. It's like I really like Taken, right? That stupid ass movie Taken, because it was a dumb movie, but like I remember a scene where he's going upstairs and he harvests mags and guns and shit off a guy, right? You're going after your daughter in a foreign country and you're an operator. You're not just shooting people in stairways and running past them. You're harvesting their stuff. Like in real life, you're going to do that. And they did that in Taken. But then that guy's super anti-gun, so I refuse to like that movie. From Paris with Love is like that. Like if he's going to take somebody out, he's going to search them real quick, take their radio and like, take their intel. And so he's a real operator. He's like actually doing stuff with intent and reporting back to the CIA and stuff. It's like a really cool, and they don't try to dumb it down and like, I'm taking the radio so that we will listen to their comms. Like he just does stuff, and you just have to pay attention and realize that he's really doing all kinds of neat stuff. They've got much better consultants or something to movies these days, so they can like incorporate some stuff so that just way more authentic, or at least it seems like it. All right, was that enough time? Are you trying to get it ready there? Nope.
Oh, you got it?
If you're playing something.
Yeah, did you?
No.
Did it come through?
No, if you try to play something from the same laptop, it usually sound effects itself right out. You don't know.
Well, it sucks because I'm on my phone, so I don't even have another. I don't have another device to play it from. I played the clip from Jackie Brown, where Sam Jackson says AK-47. When you absolutely positively have to kill every mofo in the room except no substitutes.
That's true, and that's an iconic one too, because that's that was a sound clip for. It's still a sound clip.
Yeah, that's somebody that comes up everywhere.
All right, so then it's me again. It'll be Charlie Wilson's War, hands down, second best to Red Dawn, probably. AK movie. Have you seen this one?
No.
Yep.
Where Charlie Wilson is in the CIA?
Charlie Wilson was a senator from Texas or something.
Yes, and he got in a lot of trouble for partying too much, but he
He was
actually
a pretty partier, but he was like, you know what? I think the Afghanistanis don't need to be kicking their shit kicked out of them by the Russians. Let's stop that. And he basically he pulled the Vietnam version of, he turned Afghanistan into their Vietnam.
started supplying the Afghan, the Mujahideen, whatever. He started supplying them with like Romanian AKs, wherever he could find AKs.
Egyptian AKs moved through Israel to the Mujahideen. So
is this a fictional movie?
No, it's legit. It's a real movie.
How does a senator get that kind of authority?
That's what's awesome. That's why you got to watch this. He just because he was definitely, or I don't know, is he dead?
He was the head of appropriations or something. He was something.
Was the kind of guy that's gonna ask for an apology and not permission, like or whatever. Apologize instead of asking, whatever that saying is. He just did stuff that he thought was.
Yeah, ask for
Congress doesn't set policy.
Well, there's black budgets, and he was in a department that had black budgets, and he diverted money to buy these AKs that couldn't be traced to the United States and arm the Mujahideen and repelled, with a few people, relatively few people, and some AKs repelled the entire Russian army for years. Stagnated in Afghanistan.
He eventually got them when the Russians started using their helicopters extensively. He got the Mujahideen, the
Stingers.
Yeah.
Dude, he's got a stinger in his
some photographs now, and the guy who played that character, I remember seeing that image, that actor.
He's got he had a stinger in his office, like a full auto AK. Because he just didn't care.
Yeah. Well, wasn't he Texan?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a he was a badass man.
Oh, George has a good one. And on the YouTube side, unfortunately, it should have been on the Gun Channel side. Lord of War. I can't believe no one brought up that one. Dan, we can have that for a second.
Now that I saw.
Yeah, that was a good, brilliant movie. That's super neat. I mean, it's kind of dumb, but the opening credits, the opening credits are insane. Where you are the first little piece of brass that gets pushed into a cartridge and then filled with powder, and a projectile gets crammed on you. You get put into a crate. You get brought to someplace in Africa. You get thrown out onto a thing. You get moved around. You get your lid ripped off. You finally get loaded into a mag, and then you're sent right between the eyes of some motherfucker. So crazy. And then the freaking one-liners from that movie are awesome. The scenes in the warlords, what do you call it, like bunkers.
It was also very interesting as far as getting a better understanding of the government acquisition system of stuff.
Yeah, and just how armaments move throughout the world.
Right.
Yeah.
How many channels? Yeah, like if we need stuff somewhere, we need people that can get stuff somewhere without having our fingerprints on it. And I'm sure other countries have something like that. And then,
I mean, as long as it comes from Canada, just we'll ignore the little Chinese symbols on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or when they repackaged them.
Yeah, put them in a different box.
Yeah.
Those are Chinese symbols? I don't speak French. I just assumed it was French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one little last one, if anybody has probably Netflix or Amazon, whoever happens to have MacGyver, the TV show, still on. If you go to, well, I'm not going to remember anymore. I think it was episode 2 of season 4, but I might be off. Anyway, look for I know the episode is called The Gun, and it's a horrible, MacGyver is okay, but he was a crazy anti-gun guy. And the show was like super anti-gun after a while, and this was definitely one of the anti-gun ones. It's called The Gun. The episode is called The Gun, and it's supposed to be the gun that started World War One, which was
the assassin's gun.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it was some kind of weird revolver or something.
That was a little 32 semi-auto, but whatever that gun was, it was supposed to, they made it sound like in the MacGyver episode, like it was that gun, but it was supposedly some gun that started a revolution that had significance. And it was supposedly, because it was the gun that started this whole atrocity, it was a, haunted gun, or it had, it was an evil gun. And since then it had been sold at police auction, and it had murdered so many people, and then got resold at police auction because there's the system that lets the guns back on the streets, right? It was just like morbidly anti-gun. But as part of MacGyver trying to figure out the path of destruction that this gun has led, he goes to an AK-47 factory, which turns out it's actually in Canada, but in the movie or in the TV show, it's supposed to be in California. But somewhere in Canada, they created a really cool, like, whole big warehouse full of AKs. And I don't know of any Canadian manufacturer of AKs. So that was just all props. But if you watch that episode called The Gun, it's cool. There's hundreds of AKs in this building, this room. I really thought it was one of the U.S. importers or somebody, like, to have that many guns. I figured they went on location and filmed that at one of the importers. But I guess they just took every Canadian movie AK and stuck them in one room and filmed them.
Up until the mid 80s, we could actually own AKs and stuff, so we had tons of them.
This would have probably been something, I don't know. It was not the first seasons of MacGyver. But and then at the end, I guess when you're a crazy arms dealer, what you do is you just put a bunch of AKs in a giant box. It's like as big as a car. And then you put that on a cargo container boat going somewhere. So at the end, MacGyver has to do something, and he like breaks the lines on this cargo container. So it like dumps like all the AKs in the show onto the dock. And I don't know how they filmed that, because they had to destroy a bunch of things that either look like AKs, or they just destroyed a bunch of AKs doing it. But
I'm assuming that a lot of that was literally pipes painted and things like that.
Or like the rubber casts, the rubber molds, they'll make those.
Right.
It had to be.
Probably they were just
the thing is, when they kind of slow motion the first time you see the factory in the show, you see things being assembled and like parts and stuff, so they can't all be rubber. But yeah, anyway, it's an interesting like blip on the normally anti-gun MacGyver to see this like fictitious California AK factory. All right, so that's. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's weird because Richard Dean Anderson didn't used to be anti-gun until he moved to Hollywood.
Well, it's probably a certain amount of like, I want a job still, and maybe I don't know who he's trying to go out with or something.
People think my opinion's important, so I'll share it with them.
Well, no, I think.
If there's like Bloomberg is funding a movie, and he's like, I don't want anybody in it who's not like adamantly anti-gun or something. Maybe something like that. Like they have to go on the record just so that they can get a job.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that goes on in Hollywood. There's a lot of people who are pro-gun but can't say anything.
And a lot of people that just simply don't care, and they'll sell their soul to the highest bidder. And
yeah, if it's not important to you at all, it's like if somebody asked me to like be adamantly pro something about a sewing machine, I could care less. So I'm going to say, sure, whatever. All sewing machines should be right-handed or something.
Yeah, but people like us tend to be the exception.
Not really.
I mean, people who would actually take time out, spend their own money to, as an example, to go to a gun rights policy conference.
Well, yeah, there's that, but it's just like, you know, there's a yeah. Oh, okay, I see your point. Like, there's
drive hundreds or 1,000 miles or take an airplane to go to a gun show. Spend thousands of dollars getting training. These are exceptions.
You shouldn't even come to talk if you haven't done all those things.
Damn it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our AKs in movies. If you got other movies with AKs in them, you can put it in the comments if you want, or go have a different show or chat about it in the off air, or not off air, but in the after shows or the after chats, and come up with other movies. There's obviously lots of them. And we didn't use IDMDB, so I'm proud of us. We like to talk about a gun shop every day. It's one of the reasons we do the daily gun show. And let's see if I have one in here already. Gun shop. It says, what was your favorite gun shop? So that I was kind of throwing some stuff in here as I was scheduling so that it's not necessarily the same thing every day. So, you know, sometimes we talk about a museum or a surplus store or something, but today we're just going to ask, what was your favorite, or what is your favorite gun shop, Bob?
Wolverine Sales in Burden, Manitoba. I think I did it on the Daily Gun Show one day. It's absolutely amazing. The guy's got full autos, which is really unusual in Canada. He's got his own range right outside the gun shop. He's got World War I machine guns that are fully operational, MG34s that are fully functional. You know, he's got Thompsons, Sten guns, everything in the shop, in cases and hanging on the walls, and just an amazing shop, and a huge amount of guns, like tons of ARs, pretty much like tons. He's one of the big importers of VZ58s. So yeah, just an amazing shop, especially being really close to me. It's half an hour away from where I live now, and yeah, great place.
Okay, Dana.
My favorite is Gat Guns in East Dundee, Illinois. The reason it's my favorite, and I haven't been there a whole lot, especially lately, because I moved away from the area. I used to live in that area. Is, you know, where I live now, the gun stores, they're small mom and pop, and they have very little selection. Although that place technically is a mom and pop, it has an incredible selection of stuff for being in that category of a mom and pop. It's just kind of dumbfounding the selection that they have, not only in pistols, rifles, hunting gear, reloading gear, powders, primers, shooting range, and then I'm talking about an up-to-date shooting range, not a 1950s kind of shooting range. It's for being owned by a family, you know, it's really amazing how much they have there. I mean, you would think you were at a smaller version of a Cabela's minus the stuffed animals.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been to stores that have more stuff in them, or, you know, that are, say, the same size. But Gat has done something where you're saying like family owned or whatever, but they've managed to keep that like small shop kind of atmosphere while it's physically grown. And I've seen other shops that are physically about the same or bigger, but I don't know, maybe it's just something about, obviously it's something about their dynamic of their, you know, the people they hire is based off of, you know, their interests and what they want to see their store be. So obviously they got some flavor there. But anyway, a lot of the other stores, you'll have a little less, more big box feel, where people just seem like employees, not actively interested in what you're doing and making sure you got.
I mean, even the inventory of knives that they had. I mean, it just like, and at least again, I'm coming from you're about to be in almost to the Chicago suburban area, almost. as you're getting closer and closer. And of course, that's part of the attraction is because in the city of Chicago there are no gun stores. There's 3.5 million people in Chicago and not one gun store. So obviously, the gun stores that do exist out in the burbs get a lot of business.
Right, and they've either folded or, I guess they've either folded or existed, but GAT has thrived. They've held it well.
Yeah.
I was gonna pick GAT, so
sorry.
I mean, I didn't though, but it's gonna always be probably one of my top 3. Sandhills. Favorite gun shop?
Hey, maybe if I hit my mute button, you can hear me, or my unmute button. I don't really have a favorite. I don't have one in town here that really I'm crazy about. There's 2 pawn shops and then 1 actual gun shop here in town, and I'm not crazy about any of them. Right now, I think my favorite is probably any Shields store, because it doesn't matter which one I go into. They've got a lot of selection, and they've got employees that actually know what they're talking about for the most part.
Well, I went into a Shields store where Minnesota and Fargo, North Dakota are next to each other. There's some town, I forget what the name of the town is next to Fargo.
Moorhead.
Is it Moorhead? Moorhead, yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's fitting. Because anyway, their Shields, I drove all the way into Minnesota from Fargo. Keep in mind, all the way from Fargo into Minnesota. And then I find out that Shields doesn't have guns. I had to go all the way back to Fargo, North Dakota to go to the one that had the Ferris wheel and the guns and stuff. And that blew me away. Like, that had a lot of guns.
Yeah,
anyway,
Shields.
They do have a Shields that doesn't have guns in it, and whatever that town is, Moorhead, Minnesota. It's all just like girls running stuff. So I'm walking around like, nope, more running like shoes. Like, nope, like running pantyhose. Like, nope, running bras. Like, come on, is there anything? I'm like, finally go up to the front. I'm like, are there guns in this store? It's like, you got to go to North Dakota for that. I had to drive all the way back into North Dakota. We talked about, Bob, have you been to Fargo?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I always thought Fargo was like a city or like maybe even a town. I didn't realize it was like 6 gas stations and like 4 restaurants.
You want to hear something that I just found here in the city? There's actually a gun store inside our Home Hardware. It's a freaking hardware store, and you go into the back, and there's about a 20-foot wall with a counter, and they sell hunting rifles and a few other things, even a few handguns. But it's in a hardware store.
Oh yeah, I mean I grew up with that being a thing. Like, most hardware stores had a gun section. It was weak compared to a gun shop, but if you needed like shotgun shells,
anything like that, years. I haven't seen that in years. And there's no advertising really for it. Like, there's nothing on the outside of the store. I was in there looking for something else, like hinges for a cupboard, and all of a sudden went, oh shit, there's guns here, and sporting goods, and bows and a few other things, but very small. I should actually go in there and get some pictures.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's one of the reasons they don't put it out front, so that people don't get all upset and hate them just for the possibility, and just let it be like for the people who bother going in.
There's not a lot of that here. I mean, we like our local radio stations have Instagram and Facebook contests where you send in your whatever the deer you shot during the season, or whatever rabbit you killed, or whatever. We're pretty redneck out here.
Hey, G, I just threw a link in the gun channels chat there. That's a gun shop in Minnesota that I want to get to. My brother-in-law lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and it's about an hour east of him into Minnesota. And that place, from what I hear, this guy just had an FFL out. He lives, out in the country, outside this little bitty town, and he started doing enough gun trade that he moved everything out of his garage and actually built a shop, and he's just kind of expanded a couple times. And now he has like an annual open house where there are reps from like most of the major manufacturers, accessory manufacturer. Everybody shows up to this thing. It's just out in the middle of nowhere in a guy's metal building that he built. His name is Kiergaard, and I really want to get to that one sometime.
Yeah, Roosted was telling me something similar story in Minnesota, but I don't know. I don't remember it being a name like that, but he didn't write it down ever, I don't think. So maybe, I don't know.
I think
it's Minnesota.
Yeah, I think that's the shop where my brother-in-law bought his Browning M1919. He walked in there and saw that, and right next to it on a tripod was a Ma Deuce that he couldn't afford, but he went home with the M1919. It's rechambered for 7.62 by 51, but still, it's a cool gun.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
So
I don't know if Roosted's out there. I don't see him, but that is in the same neck of the woods as the one he was talking about. He was really adamant. He's like, go there, go there. But the weather started acting funny, so I booked out of there in the middle of the night, and they weren't open that night.
Like white stuff started falling out of the air.
Number one, yeah. No, it was slush. And I don't know when ice happens in North Dakota. So I didn't want to be there for any of it. Because I figured if I'm driving, I can drive away from the weather. Like, you don't have to, it's just like a boat. You don't have to sit in the weather. You can, if you're mobile, you can move away from weather.
Did you say North Dakota?
North Dakota, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ice, I think in North Dakota, ice happens 300 days out of the year, and 65 days there's no ice.
Yeah.
I mean, so, like right now, they can have ice or having ice.
It was accumulating slush, so I knew that all it had to do was get cold, and then that turns into ice in different places. And I mean, I barely understood the concept. It's been 2 decades since I had to drive in that stuff very often. So, and I lived there for I grew up driving around in snow, but that's sitting in a passenger seat. I actually drove in snow for 2 years, and then I moved away. So I definitely am not going around saying I'm an expert snow driver or nothing.
Driving in snow is fun.
Yeah, whatever. Something I don't do.
Hard frost just the other night here.
Geez, it snowed here already, but it was beautiful today. It was like 45, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It was just gorgeous.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, Simpson. Anyhow, so yeah, I don't know what my shop would be. I kind of want to say that shop that is in Cody, Wyoming, that's called Cody Firearms Experience, and it's right outside the gate of Yellowstone, where 2.5 to 3 million people go into Yellowstone. So that means 2.5 to 3 million people see that sign saying, "Shoot guns, shoot the gun of Annie Oakley, shoot a Gatling gun." And even if they're not interested, I think there's a lot that's adding a lot to our culture, our overall community, because people know that there's a gun shop there, and they can hate guns as much as they want, and they can listen verbatim to whatever they're told, but there's gonna be some glitch in their head because they know that there's a gun shop right there, and there's not murders happening while 3.5 million or 2.5 million people from all over the world go in and out of there. So I really, really, really like that. But at the same time, you got Vegas, right? So I'm going to probably say the gun store in Vegas, because they've been there for so long, and I just personally have been going to that store for, again, decades. So it's been neat to watch it evolve. But they're the closest to the strip. There's another one called Las Vegas Gun Club or something down on the road to Pahrump that has been there, I think, just as long or maybe even longer, but just as long. But no one goes to Pahrump. Like, very few people leave the strip and drive all the way down like they're going to Pahrump, where almost everybody comes out of the airport and sees the gun store. So, I mean, Yellowstone gets 2-3 million people a year in like a couple of months, where Vegas 365 24/7 has people coming in from all over the country and all over the world, and those all of them really, but I guess I'm saying the gun store, are ambassadors to that. And again, doesn't matter what people, how much they hate or how little they pay attention, they have to put it in their mind that there's a place in Vegas that lets people rent machine guns. How possibly dangerous can they be when anybody can rent them and people from all over the world with no training successfully shoot them? So I really think that's going to be my choices, not because they're necessarily the best or the most interesting shops, but because of what they're doing.
So are you suggesting the machine gun shops in Las Vegas rather than one particular place?
Well, I was saying in general, but if I had to pick one, it's the one called the Gun Store, which is the one that has the state of Nevada with an MP5 in the front of it. So it's like a logo that if you've been to Vegas a couple of times, you start to recognize because you see it more often than the others.
I've never been, so I have no idea.
Basically, Vegas is a strip, right? It's one strip, one street, and all the hotels are on it. And it's over the years gotten longer, and eventually it broke into two pieces. And there's the old piece and then the new piece. And the new piece is hardly new. It's older than.
Are they parallel, perpendicular to each other?
Doesn't matter. For all matter, it's just one street. Doesn't really matter. They're kind of like the shape of a 7, but doesn't matter. There's one street. The rest of the town exists, and once you get like 2 or 3 streets away from the strip, it's just a regular town again. It's just that it's a weird town because 99% of the people are there to support this one street where there's massive hotels. And you go west and you see mountains in the distance. Wherever, any state you're in out here, if you look under the horizon, you see mountains. There's terrain. In Vegas, it's unique because no matter where you are in the city, pretty much there's this artificial terrain of these giant thing. So it's a unique city, but there's really not much to it, is what I'm getting at. There's one street, and for the most part, all the hotels are on this one, let's call it a crooked street. So everybody, and there's one airport. So everybody gets out of the airport, and Howard Hughes put his airport 5 minutes from his hotel. So you get out of the airport on one street, you take a left, and you're on the strip. Like there's nothing. You're out of the airport, you're on the strip. And most people that go to Vegas just to hang out, that's all they see is the airport, the street, and then the strip, and whatever hotel they're in, and then the street, the airport, and they're out of there.
How long would you say the strip is?
Now it is 4 miles. It used to be like 1.
So, I mean, I'm just trying to comprehend what you're saying. So basically, Las Vegas exists to support the strip, and the strip is literally only 4 miles long and supporting what, 2.5 million people, something like that?
Oh, hell no, way more than 2.5 million. 2.5 million, like in a buffet. No, like way more. That's got to be way more. I don't know. That'd be an interesting thing to look up. But basically, it's the most it's got to be the most biggest hotels in the world, right? There might be a bigger hotel somewhere, but not like all in one town. So it's basically either the most hotels or the world-class hotels in that 4 miles. So it's not like a bunch of Holiday Inns. It's these casinos. Anyway, all I'm getting at is a lot of people go to Vegas and they don't really give a shit about anything about Nevada or Vegas or anything. They get out of the airport, they go to the strip, they get back in the airport, and they leave. The gun store is between the airport and the strip, basically. I mean, it's technically a little bit off to the right, but again, anybody who goes to get something to drink off the strip, anybody who goes to wash clothes, anybody who leaves the strip for any reason, there's a potential you're seeing this gun shop. And they advertise everywhere. So there's trucks running around that say shoot a machine gun. There's banners and billboards and stuff that'll say shoot a machine gun, all strategically placed for people that are just coming there to gamble and leave. because they, like any other attraction, they want you to know all the different things you have available to you when you're in Vegas. So anyway, all I'm getting at is I'm thinking all of them in general, because now that they're all there, it's an actual thing. People go to Vegas just to shoot machine guns. I mean, there's 12 places you can shoot machine guns, I think. So that means you could literally show up in Vegas with a handful of cash and just spend a week shooting machine guns at different places, every day a different place, or two every day. And there's got to be people that do that. And that's awesome. Like I say, that's...
Yeah, I totally get it. After my one experience of being able to go someplace, and that was out at Wanamaker, where we got to rent some machine guns, was absolutely, I totally get why it's a thing. Now, of course, I've always assumed it's a thing, but I never had the opportunity, so I didn't.
Well, but like, I guess what I'm saying is, even aside from the actual people that pull triggers, because yeah, I think once you pull triggers on one that you've rented, you probably already were pro gun. Very few people are probably brought kicking and screaming into that. But no matter what your position was, as soon as you pull the trigger, you pretty much figure out, oh, these things aren't death machines. I have to operate every single aspect of it, and it's so easy to miss the target. These aren't as deadly and as, ultimately evil as the media would like us to believe. So I think that, yeah, once you pull a trigger, you're not anti-gun anymore, probably. But I'm thinking of those people that are just don't give a crap about pulling a trigger. They're just there to gamble or to drink or to do whatever weird thing they're going to do in Vegas and leave it there. But they see that sign, and that's where I'm saying those gun shops, I'm trying to give them some extra credit, because just because they're doing what they're doing in the place they're doing it, they have become ambassadors for our community, for the entire world.
Right.
Because all these other people are just aware that there's a machine gun rental place there. If we were really losing and we really had to be ashamed, like, we wouldn't have banners, like giant things that cost tons of money, competing with each other to say, come shoot machine guns at my place. I mean, that's a whole nother world. When I guess it's the same as I don't know, gambling, right? Vegas was the only place you could gamble. But what happened? People went there to gamble because it was the only place you could gamble. And it was like, I guess sometimes it's run by the mob, but then Howard Hughes came in and cleaned all that up, right? So now it's just a place where people gamble, and it's kind of fun. And it's, just a recreation. And now we got riverboat gambling, and we got casinos gambling, and reservations have casinos and stuff. So now there's gambling everywhere. The marijuana thing. Huh?
Like Amsterdam, right?
Yeah, exactly. The marijuana thing. Yep. Like, you can have marijuana for medicinal stuff. Oh, if people aren't dying from that, okay, you can have it for recreational. Like, oh, there's not people dying in the streets. I think it's one of those kind of cultural change things. And I don't know if I don't think anybody deliberately did it, but I think that we should consider it a win. I mean, again, I guess I'm saying years ago, you go to Vegas and there was one place where you could rent machine guns. Now you go to Vegas and there's 12 places that are competing with each other to beg you to shoot machine guns there.
Right. And in a way, but that competition also makes it more affordable for the tourist versus if there was one or two.
It's a good point. And it means that if a swarm of people show up for some convention, there's 12 different places that can deal with them. So it's not like, oh, I really wish I could shoot machine guns, but I don't want to wait for 4 hours at the one place. Right. Now it's like, I want to shoot machine guns. 20 minutes later, there's a Humvee with a M60 on top of it, dragging you to the place, to drop you off so you can immediately shoot your machine gun.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's advertising for them. They drive around and pick you up and from your hotel, take you to the range where you can shoot. Great.
Yeah, that door-to-door service has only got to make it even more popular.
And again, it's the advertising, like Bob's saying, like when they come pick you up, they make a big deal about it. This guy's shooting a machine gun. They'll have like fake noise coming out of them, so it looks like, So that's what I picked. But obviously, I'm all about gun shops. There's lots of different criteria we could focus that to some other angle, and I think that would be a fun question. So maybe that's what we'll do next time. Is we'll say, like, what's your favorite mom and pop shop, or what's your favorite, almost a big box, or what's your favorite place to buy ammo or something like that.
I think this topic, one of the things that I found very interesting is it shows the huge breadth depending on location as far as what is your most favorite gun store. Obviously, we all live in different places. We lived, different lives, and so we're exposed to different things.
Yeah, and we have different interests in shooting, right? So yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right. So member of the day, Santos, your newest one. You want to pick somebody to feature for our member of the day? We'll give you a minute, and
you're on the spot.
Remember to unmute your mic.
When you're ready.
Listen to Clover's show. We talked about going to Wanamaker, and just kind of had a planning BS session to kind of talk about stuff. And number one, it's good to listen to Clover's shows. They're always interesting. And since he doesn't script them or anything, we just start with a topic and have an interesting panel of people who are involved in creating content. It becomes an interesting sort of chat session. But in addition to just listening to it as entertainment, I'm hoping people will listen to it and help us come up with ways that we can make our time at Wanamaker as effective as possible. A lot of us are taking time and money and effort to get there. And it's not just to make a bunch of selfies and chat about the stuff that we chat about every day on the internet anyway, but instead to, promote the show, to help the vendors out, to make the people who are creating content have stronger channels or projects. So anything you might have seen or have an idea for something that might make it interesting, let Clover know, let Ghost know. Snob, Santos, are you going down to the show this time in November?
No, that's not going to work. We're not even sure if we're going to make it in April. We want to.
Yeah, it looks like Travis went to some Metallica concert and spent all his money, he says, so he's not coming down either. But again, if you've got ideas for ways to, do something new at a show, we're definitely all ears. You can always email us at dailygunshow@gmail.com as well. So that give you enough time to come up with a member of the day? I feel like we got a lot of dead air. We have to start this whole show over again.
Well,
so if you watch it more. But Bob, you got one?
Yeah, I was thinking roosted. Not roosted. Midnight Rain.
Who?
Midnight.
Oh, the cook guy.
Good. Yeah, because I think he just hit 1,000 subs, if I'm right, or he just passed 1,000 subs, or is almost at 1,000.
I think he was saying that the Daily Gun Show is at 1,000. He's convinced that hot dog is an open-faced sandwich. So,
could be. Yeah.
There's no way 1,000.
But anyway,
crazy.
I think he does some pretty interesting stuff, even if he does think a hot dog is an open-faced sandwich.
No, you're right, and he keeps kicking, and he does it in a way that obviously a lot of people dig, and you can tell by the number. His panels are almost always full on Sundays, and it's late. So I think he brings an interesting twist and a unique attitude to it, which is definitely everybody digs it on Sundays.
Now, I've not heard one of his shows. I'm obviously aware of him, but I've not heard a show. Is it what's the focus of his Sunday show?
Semi-structured, but he's he allows it to run off into whatever, and then he basically copies off of Matt. So whatever Matt did the first week or the previous week or during the week, let's say on the Nerd Show or the Wednesday show, he does a bracket on something. Midnight just literally copies that.
Would that be true?
Huh?
Entertainment things?
Oh, no. Like, basically, if Matt did a bracket on, like, movies of the 80s, and then at some point during that chat, someone says, like, Kit Kat, well, then he'll do it on candy that weekend. So he'll steal Matt's format, but the topic is almost always like candy or sugary snacks or breakfast cereals or, marshmallow treats. It's always something like that. Or maybe something else. But anyway, he does it sort of basically steals Matt's format and then, runs it a little bit differently than that. Just enough so he doesn't get sued.
Okay.
Anyway, and then he doesn't say like this is nerd chat or this is food chat or this is politics chat like Matt's try to focus his a bit, which means, like I said, it'll kind of just go to it seems like it goes to the topic of the day. I don't know, maybe he's just super savvy and he makes it look like it's just naturally happening and he's really got it all scripted out. I don't know. But he's a real deal, and yeah, it's always cool to see people throwing content and seeing how successful something like that, where it's not like he said, oh, okay, according to, trends, like blah, blah, blah is the topic I should talk about. And, then we're going to talk about this because it's trending or something. What's that population over there?
Oh, that was Las Vegas, according to Google.
Oh, I was going to say, there's no way that's Fargo. Wow, really? 500,000 is Google, or is Vegas? Well, that's the population of Vegas. Does it say how much it swells during a busy weekend?
No, that does not. I'm assuming that's just residents only.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would have thought a bit more because it seems way bigger than Tucson, and that's a smaller number than Tucson, I think.
Right. Tucson.
Well, I think it's just because there's so many tourists there all the time.
Yeah, there's no way to know who's like not supposed to be there, who doesn't live there. So it's just there's a billion people there, and yeah, 3/4 of them don't live there.
Yeah,
but there's got to be a way. They can probably count every hotel room and then minus 20% or something, and then figure that's what it can swell to or something. Or maybe take like the attendance of like the most busiest weekends of. Sometimes they'll have like 5 trade shows or something in 1 week. So take the 3 busiest weekends or something and see what it swells to.
Yeah, plus just all the people who are there in their RVs or just there, for a week on holiday.
Yeah, that aren't there for a specific thing just because it's warm or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's warm and it's
expensive. It's because there's so many people and there's so many options. There's tons of. I mean, you can go there on a budget. You can go there on a sky's the limit. I mean, you can have fun almost at any level in Vegas.
Mm.
And then I found out that there's a whole series of bums that go between Vegas and Salt Lake City. So right now they're on their Vegas migration. So that was interesting.
Why do they migrate?
Because it's cold in Salt Lake City. Like just like I left Salt Lake City because it started getting to like 30 something at night. Like screw that. So
why would they just stay in Vegas then?
Because Vegas gets super hot, and they go to Salt Lake City when it's super hot.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know the West, so that's.
Yeah, it's weird because you're going from like, I don't know what the elevation of Vegas is. It's probably not much. And then Salt Lake City's like 5,000 feet. So even though you only go 4 hours north or something, it's also like 4,000 feet up. So you're
doing the elevation thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's much nicer in the summer than Vegas gets to be like Phoenix or something, 100 and plus. Ugh.
Because I know San Diego has a large homeless population because they can stay there year round.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know about the migration thing. I mean, I assumed some bums. I know they'd come in and out of Tucson and stuff too, but I don't know. They don't have like a pattern that I know of out of Tucson. I guess this is like an actual migration route where a bunch of them just live in those 2 cities.
So like the never mind.
Well, you see them in like the truck stops. It's like I was hearing about it, and I'm like, yeah. But then it's like, wow,
Well, I was
like,
thinking about a TV show on Sunday nights and how they referred to herds of people.
It's kind of like that. And what's interesting is, like, now that I'm driving around and looking, like I was hanging out in Vegas for a while, and you'd look at like a park or like there's, you know, like when you're driving down the highway, there'll just be not a rest area, but a place for trucks to pull off and do their hours. You know how they have to wait.
Right.
So, like, you know, just be like the road just gets a little wider and there's a garbage can there. And there's like a sign that says truck parking. They'll have a Google review of that. Like, there'll be people that write all kinds of stuff about something as simple as that. So you put in, like, you know, you're going from here to here, and you type in like rest area, and it shows you all those different things, parks and national forests, like anything that might, you know, I mean, like a neighborhood park, like anything that you could potentially rest at. And then, yeah, I started looking at, and you start looking at Vegas reviews of like a neighborhood park. I was at this Walmart, and they really want people out of the parking lots at Walmart in Vegas. Like, they do not want people hanging out in the parking lots in Walmart. So I was in a parking lot in a Walmart, and I could tell that this guy, security guy, had come by like 3 times already. Like, I didn't need to be there. So I look on my map, and there's a dog park. Right now the dog's shedding, so I'm like, great, a dog park means I can go there and comb the dog, and I'm probably not going to get yelled at. I go over there. Actually, I read the reviews, and I went over there anyway. The reviews were like, you might as well give this park to the homeless. Like, there's more drug stuff going on in this park than kids playing. Like, this taken over by the homeless from this date to this date and that kind of thing. I go over to that park. There's, like, you know, a playground or whatever, a little playground. You know how they have equipment for kids to play on, swings and stuff. They got like the fenced-in area for the dogs, like one of them roofs with picnic tables under it. And then some grass. It's just a little neighborhood park. And yeah, there's like 1 billion homeless people in there. And it was like, I was scared. I'm a grown man, and I don't got a gun and shit. And, like, you know, I'm not worried about nothing. And I'm like, I'm getting out of here. This is scary. I can't even imagine you just live in your neighborhood and this is your park. Like, your kids can't even go to it. It's crazy. Right. And I guess then, you know, like they say in the reviews, like until November 14th or whatever, and then boom, they all leave, and then you can go to your park again.
Well, I suppose if you have the police push them out of the park, they have to go somewhere. So it's either in the park, or do you want them really roaming the neighborhoods? I mean, because then it creates, if there's no other place to go, then it's going to be alleyways, neighborhoods of where people live.
I mean, I don't know, and it's I really don't know. I didn't realize, you know, I never lived in a place that had that phenomenon or whatever, so I just didn't realize it's probably been going on for a long time.
I mean, the town that I'm working with has quite a few homeless people, and it's
got to be different when they can just sleep on the picnic table with like no blanket, though, you know.
Well, yeah,
because that's the thing. These weren't like carrying around a shopping cart type of homeless people. These were just like wearing dirty clothes and, you know, not carrying around like a bindle. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how we've got into that.
Yeah. But, you can move along.
We're not going to solve that tonight. So most people have left. There's nobody watching anymore. Thanks to the people that did stick around. Hopefully it was something worth listening to. And we'll see you back here at the same time tomorrow.
Adios.